Boi. Come. Bashalan. In the peace. Atele. Putting crown on. Byler. Her husband. Boi Kailar. Come bride. This is a beautiful Hebrew wedding song, as if the angels in heaven are calling for the bride who has been waiting for 6,000 years to stand up bravely and put on the crown of glory for the coming King of Heaven.
大家好，欢迎来到以诺谈天节目。今天我们讲亚伯拉罕的故事第5部分。宁录噩梦，起杀心，老仆深夜来报警。天上应许，永祝福，50出入迦南地。前面我们说了，上帝在创造天地之先就呼唤亚伯兰2次，伯兰，伯兰。伯兰出生见天象，宁录王要杀他，结果仆人的儿子代替了亚伯兰，神救了他。亚伯兰苦寻上帝，宁录建塔办天庭。亚伯兰披神像，宁录把亚伯兰与哥哥哈兰投入火炉，最终亚伯兰3日3夜毫发未损，哈兰死在火炉中。
Hello everyone, welcome to EnochTH show. Today we begin the story of Abraham, part 5. Nimrod had a nightmare and wanted to kill Abram. And the old servant came to tell Abram warning at middle night. Heaven promised eternal blessings. And Abram entered the land of Canaan in his early 50s. In the previous sections we talked before the creation of the heaven and the earth. God called Abram twice, Burim and Burim. Abram was born, and King Nimrod wanted to kill him, but his servant's son took Abram's place. God saved him. Abram searched so hard for the way of back to heaven. Nimrod built a tower to rebel against heaven. In anger, Abram burned idols of false gods and smashed the idols of Nimrod. Abram was thrown in the furnace for 3 days and 3 nights. But he walked out without damage even a single hair.
下面我们来看这部分，基本上是取自雅煞尔书。45自亚伯兰出火窑近满2年，那时他52岁。宁录坐在巴别的宝座上，王睡着，梦到他和他的步兵及军队正面对王的火窑站着。46他举目看到一个像亚伯兰的人从火窑走过来，站在王面前，手中拿着剑，然后突然举剑跳向王。王从那人面前逃走，因他害怕。他正逃的时候，那人向王的头抛去一个鸡蛋，鸡蛋变成了一条大河。47王又梦到他的全军沉入河里死了，王和他前面的3个人逃之夭夭。48王看见这些人打扮像首领，衣着如同王一样，面貌也有王的威严。49正当他们逃跑，那河又在王的眼前变成了鸡蛋，一只幼雏从蛋中出来到王的跟前，朝着他的脸扑去，啄去了王的眼睛。50王见此便忧伤，他醒了过来，心里恼怒，又极其恐惧。51早晨王从恐惧中起身，召来所有的智者和术士到他面前，将他的梦讲述给他们听。52王的一个智者名叫亚努基，回答说，这不是别的，乃是亚伯兰和他后代向我主和王日后所行的恶。53亚伯半和他的后代及全家与我王征战的日子将到，他们将攻打王的军兵。54您所见的与您相似的那3人逃跑了，意思说，您将与地上诸王中的3王逃走，这些王将在征战中与您同在。55您所见的那条先变鸡蛋的河，并啄你眼的鸟， 就是表示亚伯兰的后裔日后将要杀您。56我王的梦和解释就是如此，此梦是真实的，仆人所给的解释也是正确的。57所以我王，您却知自亚伯兰出生之日，众圣贤所见的到如今已有52年。若王叫亚伯兰在地上存活，我主我王便要受大亏损，因亚伯兰在世的日子，你和你的国必不得建立。这些既早在亚伯兰出生时就已得知，王为何不杀了他，以致日后他的恶为您存留呢？58宁禄听了亚努基，便差几个仆人去捉拿亚伯兰，带到王前要处死。59王给亚伯兰的仆人以利以谢，当时站在王面前，他听见亚努基向王所言，并王说要处死亚伯兰。60以利以谢对亚伯兰说：快起来救你自己，好使你不死在王的手里，因他梦到你。亚努基也如此解释，他也向王如此建议办你。61亚伯兰听了以利以谢的话，急忙跑到挪亚和他的儿子闪的家里躲避，他藏在那里的一稳妥之处。王的仆人们来到亚伯兰家中寻找他，但找不着，他们搜遍全国也仍未寻见，他们到处找啊找，还是没遇见他。62王的仆人们找不到亚伯兰，回到王那里，只是王向亚伯兰所发的怒气已息，他们虽未寻见，王便不再想起亚伯兰。63亚伯兰藏在挪亚屋里1个月，直到王忘记此事，但亚伯兰仍旧惧怕王。他拉暗暗地来挪亚屋里看他儿子亚伯兰，他拉在王面前极其尊贵。64亚伯兰对父亲说：你岂不知王听了他恶臣之见想杀我，使你的名在地上灭绝吗？65如今你在这地上还有谁？手里还有什么呢？起来，我们一起去迦南，好从他手中得救，免得日后你也因他而死。66你岂不知道，岂不听见吗？宁禄给你的一切尊荣，不是因他爱你，乃皆因于自己有益。67倘若他向你施更大恩惠，诚然这些皆为世上的虚空，因愤怒的日子，财富不能存留。68为此请听我说，我们起来去迦南地，逃脱宁禄的谋害，侍奉你的耶和华，就是在地上造你的那位，这与你是好的。离弃你所追求的一切虚空吧。69亚伯兰停下来，挪亚和他的儿子闪回答他拉，说亚伯兰所说的尽都真实。其实他拉听从了他儿子亚伯兰，照他所说的去行，因这一些都出于耶和华，使王无法害他。亚萨尔书第13章。以他拉带着他的儿子亚伯兰，侄子罗德就是哈兰的儿子，他的媳妇撒来就是亚伯兰的妻子，及全家人从乌尔出发到迦南地。他们到了哈兰就停在那里，因那地一座草场，也足够供应随从他们去的人。哈兰那地的人看见亚伯兰对神对人既良善又正直，耶和华他的神与他同在，那地的一些人就跟从亚伯兰，他教导他们耶和华的教训和他的道。这些人就住在亚伯兰的家中，依从他。亚伯兰在那里住了3年，3年将过，耶和华向亚伯兰显现，说：我是耶和华，就是领你从乌尔出来，将你从你众仇敌手中搭救出来的那一位。现在如果你听我的话，遵守我的诫命、律例、法度，我就使你的仇敌倒在你面前，我要使你的后裔像天上的星那样多，我要赐福给你手中的工作，你必不缺乏。起来，带着你的妻子和一切财物去迦南的住在那里， 我会在那里做你的神，并赐福于你。亚伯兰就起身，带着他妻子和一切财物，去到耶和华所指示他的迦南地。他离开哈兰时50岁。亚伯兰来到迦南，住在城中。他在迦南人的子孙，就是那地的居民中间支搭起帐篷。耶和华在迦南的向亚伯兰显现，说：我所赐给你和你后裔的就是这地，我要使你的后裔像天上的星星那样多，你所看见的全地，我要赐给你的后裔作为产业。亚伯兰就在耶和华对他说话的地方筑了一座坛，在那里求告耶和华的名。亚伯兰在迦南地居住将满3年，那年挪亚死了，亚伯兰58岁。挪亚共活了950岁就死了。亚伯兰居住在迦南地，他和他的妻子，他的一切财物，所有跟从他的人，并那地民中跟从他的人。只是亚伯兰的弟兄拿鹤，他父亲他拉，并哈兰的儿子罗德及跟随他们的人住在哈兰。亚伯兰在迦南地居住的第5年，所多玛、俄摩拉和平原一切城邑的人起来反对以兰王基大老马。因平原一切城邑的王侍奉基大老马12年，每年向他进税，第13年他们背叛他。亚伯兰在迦南地居住的第10年，是拿王宁禄和以兰王基大老马发生了征战，宁禄来攻打基大老马，要制服他。因基大老马那时是宁禄手下的首领之一，当造巴别塔的人被分散在地面上，基大老马去到以兰地，治理那地，背叛他的主。那些日子里，宁禄见平原的城邑背叛了他，便在骄傲与怒气中前来与基大老马征战。宁禄聚集了所有的首领和听他的人，约有数十万人，去攻打基大老马。基大老马带领5000人出去迎战，他们在以兰和示拿之间的巴别谷埋伏。所有的王都在那里。宁禄和他的人在基大老马众人面前被击打，其中有60万人扑倒。王的儿子马东也在扑倒的人中。于是宁禄逃走，在羞辱中逃回自己的地，许久伏在基大老马手下。基大老马回到自己的地，派首领去见住他周围的众王，以拉撒王亚略和哥印王提达与他们立约，他们都听从他的命令。亚伯兰住在迦南地第15年，就是亚伯兰70岁时。那一年，耶和华向亚伯兰显现，对他说：我是耶和华，就是领你从乌尔出来，到赐给你为业的这地的那位。你当在我面前做完全人，守我的诫命，我就将这地作为产业赐给你和你的后裔，就是从米斯莱河到幼发拉底河。你要想大寿数，平平安安地归到你列祖那里，你的第4代要回到这地，永远承受这地。于是亚伯兰筑了一座坛，求告耶和华的名，就是向他显现的那位。他在坛上献燔祭给耶和华。亚伯兰回到哈兰，看望他的父亲和母亲及父亲家中的人。亚伯兰和他的妻子并一切所有的回到哈兰，在那里住了5年。哈兰地的许多人，约有72人，跟从了亚伯兰。亚伯兰教给他们耶和华的只是及他的道，他使他们认识耶和华。那些日子，耶和华在哈兰向亚伯兰显现，对他说：看啊，我在20年前曾对你说。从你的地，你出生之地，你父亲的家，到我所指示你要赐你和你子孙的那地。因在那地，我要赐福你，使你成为大国，叫你的名为大，地上的万族都要因你得福。现在起来，去到那地， 就是你、你的妻子，并一切属你的，及你家中一切所生的，你在哈兰所得的人，将他们带出来到那地，起来回到迦南的去。25于是亚伯兰起来，带着他的妻子撒来及一切属他的人，他家中一切所生的，和哈兰的他所得的人，出来去到迦南地。26亚伯兰遵照耶和华的吩咐去到迦南地，他兄弟哈兰的儿子罗德跟随他。亚伯兰从哈兰出来，去到迦南的时年75岁。27他遵照耶和华给他的吩咐，搭起他的帐篷，住在曼利平原。他侄子罗的及一切属他的人与他同住。28耶和华再次向亚伯兰显现说，我要将这地赐给你的后裔。于是他在那里筑起一座坛，献给耶和华，就是向他显现的那位。那坛直到今日仍在曼利的平原。
Next, let's look at this part, basically taken from the book of Jasher. Book of Jasher, chapter 12. 45 And at the expiration of 2 years from Abram's going out of the fire, that is in the 52nd year of his life, behold, King Nimrod sat in Babel upon the throne, and the king fell asleep and dreamed that he was standing with his troops and hosts in a valley opposite the king's furnace. 46 And he lifted up his eyes and saw a man in the likeness of Abram coming forth from the furnace, and that he came and stood before the king with his drawn sword, and then sprang to the king with his sword, when the king fled from the man, for he was afraid, and while he was running, the man threw an egg upon the king's head, and the egg became a great river. 47 And the king dreamed that all his troops sank in that river and died, and the king took flight with 3 men who were before him, and he escaped. 48 And the king looked at these men, and they were clothed in princely dresses as the garments of kings, and had the appearance and majesty of kings. 49 And while they were running, the river again turned to an egg before the king, and there came forth from the egg a young bird, which came before the king, and flew at his head and plucked out the king's eye. 50 And the king was grieved at the sight, and he awoke out of his sleep, and his spirit was agitated, and he felt a great terror. 51 And in the morning the king rose from his couch in fear, and he ordered all the wise men and magicians to come before him, when the king related his dream to them. 52 And a wise servant of the king, whose name was Enoch, answered the king, saying, This is nothing else but the evil of Abram and his seed which will spring up against my lord and king in the latter days. 53 And behold, the day will come when Abram and his seed and the children of his household will war with my king, and they will smite all the king's hosts and his troops. 54 And as to what thou hast said concerning 3 men which thou didst see like unto thyself, and which did escape, this means that only thou wilt escape with 3 kings from the kings of the earth who will be with thee in battle. 55 And that which thou sawest of the river which turned to an egg as at first, and the young bird plucking out thine eye, this means nothing else but the seed of Abram which will slay the king in latter days. 56 This is my king's dream, and this is its interpretation, and the dream is true, and the interpretation which thy servant has given thee is right. 57 Now therefore, my king, surely thou knowest that it is now 52 years since thy sages saw this at the birth of Abram, and if my king will suffer Abram to live in the earth, it will be to the injury of my lord and king. For all the days that Abram liveth, neither thou nor thy kingdom will be established, for this was known formerly at his birth. And why will not my king slay him, that his evil may be kept from thee in latter days? 58 And Nimrod hearkened to the voice of Enoch, and he sent some of his servants in secret to go and seize Abram, and bring him before the king to suffer death. 59 And Eleazar, Abram's servant whom the king had given him, was at that time in the presence of the king, and he heard what Enoch had advised the king, and what the king had said to cause Abram's death. 60 And Eliezer said to Abram, Hasten, rise up and save thy soul, that thou mayest not die through the hands of the king, for thus did he see in a dream concerning thee, and thus did Enoch interpret it, and thus also did Enoch advise the king concerning thee. 61 And Abram hearkened to the voice of Eliezer, and Abram hastened and ran for safety to the house of Noah and his son Shem, and he concealed himself there and found a place of safety. And the king's servants came to Abram's house to seek him, but they could not find him, and they searched throughout the country, and he was not to be found, and they went and searched in every direction, and he was not to be met with. 62 And when the king's servants could not find Abram, they returned to the king, but the king's anger against Abram was stilled, as they did not find him, and the king drove from his mind this matter concerning Abram. 63 And Abram was concealed in Noah's house for 1 month, until the king had forgotten this matter. But Abram was still afraid of the king, and Terah came to see Abram his son secretly in the house of Noah, and Terah was very great in the eyes of the king. 64 And Abram said to his father, Dost thou not know that the king thinketh to slay me, and to annihilate my name from the earth by the advice of his wicked counselors? 65 Now whom hast thou here, and what hast thou in this land? Arise, let us go together to the land of Canaan, that we may be delivered from his hand, lest thou perish also through him in the latter days. 66 Dost thou not know, or hast thou not heard, that it is not through love that Nimrod giveth thee all this honor, but it is only for his benefit that he bestoweth all this good upon thee? 67 And if he do unto thee greater good than this, surely these are only vanities of the world, for wealth and riches cannot avail in the day of wrath and anger. 68 Now therefore hearken to my voice, and let us arise and go to the land of Canaan, out of the reach of injury from Nimrod, and serve thou the Lord, who created thee in the earth, and it will be well with thee, and cast away all the vain things which thou pursuest. 69 And Abram ceased to speak, when Noah and his son Shem answered Terah, saying, True is the word which Abram hath said unto thee. 70 And Terah hearkened to the voice of his son Abram, and Terah did all that Abram said, for this was from the Lord, that the king should not cause Abram's death. Book of Jasher, chapter 13. 1 And Terah took his son Abram and his grandson Lot, the son of Haran, and Sarai his daughter-in-law, the wife of his son Abram, and all the souls of his household, and went with them from Ur-Kasdim to go to the land of Canaan. And when they came as far as the land of Haran, they remained there, for it was exceedingly good land for pasture, and of sufficient extent for those who accompanied them. 2 And the people of the land of Haran saw that Abram was good and upright with God and men, and that the Lord his God was with him. And some of the people of the land of Haran came and joined Abram, and he taught them the instruction of the Lord and his ways, and these men remained with Abram in his house, and they adhered to him. 3 And Abram remained in the land 3 years, and at the expiration of 3 years the Lord appeared to Abram and said to him, I am the Lord who brought thee forth from Ur-Kasdim, and delivered thee from the hands of all thine enemies. And now therefore if thou wilt hearken to my voice and keep my commandments, my statutes, and my laws, then will I cause thy enemies to fall before thee, and I will multiply thy seed like the stars of heaven, and I will send my blessing upon all the works of thy hands, and thou shalt lack nothing. 5 Arise now, take thy wife and all belonging to thee, and go to the land of Canaan, and remain there, and I will there be unto thee for a God, and I will bless thee. And Abram rose and took his wife and all belonging to him, and he went to the land of Canaan as the Lord had told him, and Abram was 50 years old when he went from Haran. 6 And Abram came to the land of Canaan and dwelt in the midst of the city, and he there pitched his tent amongst the children of Canaan, inhabitants of the land. 7 And the Lord appeared to Abram when he came to the land of Canaan, and said to him, This is the land which I gave unto thee and to thy seed after thee forever, and I will make thy seed like the stars of heaven, and I will give unto thy seed for an inheritance all the lands which thou sayest. 8 And Abram built an altar in the place where God had spoken to him, and Abram there called upon the name of the Lord. 9 At that time, at the end of 3 years of Abram's dwelling in the land of Canaan, in that year Noah died, which was the 58th year of the life of Abram, and all the days that Noah lived were 950 years, and he died. 10 And Abram dwelt in the land of Canaan, he, his wife, and all belonging to him, and all those that accompanied him, together with those that joined him from the people of the land, but Nahor, Abram's brother, and Terah his father, and Lot the son of Haran, and all belonging to them dwelt in Haran. 11 In the 5th year of Abram's dwelling in the land of Canaan, the people of Sodom and Gomorrah and all the cities of the plain revolted from the power of Kedorlaomer, king of Elam, for all the kings of the cities of the plain had served Kedorlaomer for 12 years, and given him a yearly tax, but in those days, in the 13th year, they rebelled against him. 12 And in the 10th year of Abram's dwelling in the land of Canaan there was war between Nimrod king of Shinar and Kedorlaomer king of Elam, and Nimrod came to fight with Kedorlaomer and to subdue him. 13 For Kedorlaomer was at that time one of the princes of the hosts of Nimrod, and when all the people at the tower were dispersed and those that remained were also scattered upon the face of the earth, Kedorlaomer went to the land of Elam and reigned over it and rebelled against his lord. 14 And in those days when Nimrod saw that the cities of the plain had rebelled, he came with pride and anger to war with Kedorlaomer, and Nimrod assembled all his princes and subjects, about 700,000 men, and went against Kedorlaomer, and Kedorlaomer went out to meet him with 5,000 men. And they prepared for battle in the valley of Babel, which is between Elam and Shinar. 15 And all those kings fought there, and Nimrod and his people were smitten before the people of Kedorlaomer, and there fell from Nimrod's men about 600,000, and Mardon the king's son fell amongst them. 16 And Nimrod fled and returned in shame and disgrace to his land, and he was under subjection to Kedorlaomer for a long time. And Kedorlaomer returned to his land and sent princes of his host to the kings that dwelt around him, to Arioch king of Elasar, and to Tidal king of Goyim, and made a covenant with them, and they were all obedient to his commands. 17 And it was in the 15th year of Abram's dwelling in the land of Canaan, which is the 70th year of the life of Abram, and the Lord appeared to Abram in that year, and he said to him, I am the Lord who brought thee out from Ur Kasdim to give thee this land for an inheritance. 18 Now therefore walk before me and be perfect and keep my commands, for to thee and to thy seed I will give this land for an inheritance, from the river Mitzrayim unto the great river Euphrates. 19 And thou shalt come to thy fathers in peace and in good age. And the 4th generation shall return here in this land, and shall inherit it forever. And Abram built an altar, and he called upon the name of the Lord who appeared to him, and he brought up sacrifices upon the altar to the Lord. 20 At that time Abram returned and went to Haran to see his father and mother, and his father's household, and Abram and his wife and all belonging to him returned to Haran, and Abram dwelt in Haran 5 years. 21 And many of the people of Haran, about 72 men, followed Abram, and Abram taught them the instruction of the Lord and his ways, and he taught them to know the Lord. 22 In those days the Lord appeared to Abram in Haran, and he said to him, Behold, I spoke unto thee these 20 years back, saying, 23 Go forth from thy land, from thy birthplace and from thy father's house, to the land which I have shown thee to give it to thee and to thy children, for there in that land will I bless thee, and make thee a great nation, and make thy name great, and in thee shall the families of the earth be blessed. 24 Now therefore arise, go forth from this place, thou, thy wife, and all belonging to thee, also every one born in thy house, and all the souls thou hast made in Haran, and bring them out with thee from here. and rise to return to the land of Canaan. 25 And Abram arose and took his wife Sarai and all belonging to him and all that were born to him in his house and the souls which they had made in Haran, and they came out to go to the land of Canaan. 26 And Abram went and returned to the land of Canaan, according to the word of the Lord. And Lot the son of his brother Haran went with him, and Abram was 75 years old when he went forth from Haran to return to the land of Canaan. 27 And he came to the land of Canaan according to the word of the Lord to Abram, and he pitched his tent and he dwelt in the plain of Mamre, and with him was Lot his brother's son, and all belonging to him. 28 And the Lord again appeared to Abram and said, To thy seed will I give this land, and he there built an altar to the Lord who appeared to him, which is still to this day in the plains of Mamre.
我们来看看经文中上帝对亚伯兰的应许。耶和华对亚伯兰说：“你要离开本地、本族、父家，往我所要指示你的地去。我必叫你成为大国，我必赐福给你，叫你的名为大，你也要叫别人得福。为你祝福的，我必赐福于他；那咒诅你的，我必咒诅他。地上的万族都要因你得福。”亚伯兰就照着耶和华的吩咐去了，罗得也和他同去。亚伯兰出哈兰的时候年75岁。亚伯兰将他妻子撒来和侄儿罗得，连他们在哈兰所积蓄的财物、所得的人口，都带往迦南地去。他们就到了迦南地。亚伯兰经过那地，到了示剑地方摩利橡树那里。那时迦南人住在那地。耶和华向亚伯兰显现，说：“我要把这的赐给你的后裔。”亚伯兰就在那里为向他显现的耶和华筑了一座坛。从那里他又迁到伯特利东边的山，支搭帐篷，西边是伯特利，东边是爱。他在那里又为耶和华筑了一座坛，求告耶和华的名。后来亚伯兰又渐渐迁往南地去。创世纪12章1至9节和合本。我们来看亚伯兰的祝福，因为万王最终都是亚伯拉罕的后代，所以每一个人都会领受亚伯拉罕的祝福，但必须按照亚伯拉罕做的那样，离开父亲的家，直到末日，我们才明白什么是离开父亲的家。我们先来看新约经文99只羊的比喻。我们这里就拿99只羊这比喻来说明这一点。四福音书中马太与路加都提到这故事。一个人若有100只羊，一只走迷了路，你们的意思如何？他岂不撇下这99只，往山里去找那只迷路的羊吗？若是找着了，我实在告诉你们，他为这一只羊欢喜，比为那没有迷路的99只欢喜还大呢。你们在天上的父也是这样，不愿意这小子里失丧一个。马太福音18章12至14节和合本。你们中间谁有100只羊失去一只，不把这99只撇在旷野，去找那失去的羊，直到找着呢？找着了，就欢欢喜喜地扛在肩上，回到家里，就请朋友邻舍来，对他们说：“我失去的羊已经找着了，你们和我一同欢喜吧。我告诉你们，一个罪人悔改，在天上也要这样为他欢喜，较比为99个不用悔改的一人欢喜更大。”路加福音15章4至7节和合本。这两个都是强调找回迷失的羊，迷失的事比没迷失的更加糟糕。但如果你比较一下多马福音中的，就知道耶稣的原话不应该是马太与路加福音的描述，因为这两个描述都是告诉我们把一只找回，放回到99只里而高兴，而多马福音却告诉我们走失的才是最大的。107，耶稣说：“ 天国就像是一个有100只羊的牧羊人。当最大的羊走失了，他丢下其他99只羊去找那一只羊，直到找到为止。在费尽辛苦之后，他对这只羊说：“我爱你胜过那99只羊。”实际上，上帝的心完全在这只走出99只的那位迷失的羊，只有这只看起来迷失的，才是真正相信上帝的那只最大的羊，因为上帝只把这只扛在肩上，扛进了天堂，而不是扛回那99只迷失的，却不知道自己迷失的羊中间去。这例子告诉我们，只要改动一点点，整个故事就变了味道。这就是我们要当心的。末世代没有一个王不是自己单独走出自己的宗教，所有宗教都是垫脚石，不是目的地，都是为过末日红海准备的，所以人必须离开，最终才能进入方舟的。而且亚当家的是一对一对的上方舟，就如同挪亚方舟上不洁净的动物，上帝用不洁净的来形容亚当家。所以如果2家人一起跑出群，跑到方舟，那一定不是从上帝而来的。洁净的动物7对进方舟，由此可见真以色列人是一群来的。以色列人最终在大灾难前夕进入方舟，而亚当家的却在很长一段时间一对的进入。不过以色列人只有18分钟窗口，你错过了就永远失去了机会，那亚当家的会是多少分钟？所以准备好自己。离开父家还有一层意思，就是所有人都得离开亚当的罪。亚伯拉罕要离开的是自己亚当的父家，而所有亚当家的小脚雅各们、脚后跟们都必须背叛自己的身体亚当家。经文中没有提到亚伯兰50到70岁的那次去迦南地，因为亚伯兰回到父亲家，从75岁起，他再也没回父亲家，甚至自己的儿子孝也不能回父亲家，连寻求妻子都不能去，因为亚伯兰知道自己50至70岁的20多年在迦南地，上帝都不算他的努力，一回父亲家，前面的就一笔勾销。这不是上帝对亚伯兰的变态苛刻要求，而是因为在末日方舟里，任何一个回到世界的，就再也回不了方舟了。一切的一切，6000年的努力都一笔勾销。所以圣灵明明白白地启示以诺，就算我们拒绝保罗教的人，最终还是有很多团队队员回到保罗教，而成为拿着铁棒扫平世界的遗扫。所以上帝必须对每一个跟从上帝的最苛刻的要求，差一点都会使整个团队失败，最终上帝功亏一篑。你想想看，为什么上帝要把多马福音藏在死海古卷里，在这时候告诉我们，对付撒旦的歪曲污秽经文，我们还有啥办法澄清？这就来了一个挑战我们的课题，是4福音更有可能被污秽，还是最不起眼的多马福音？是记录100多句耶稣的话更加合耶稣心意，还是记录水变成酒更加重要？我们反过来想，是造假耶稣神更需要水变酒的神迹，还是那100来句话？是一生只记100来句话更真实的保存耶稣原话，还是50几年后记录一切更真实？好，我们就点到为止。
Let's look at God's promise to Abram in the scriptures. Now the Lord had said to Abram, "Get out of your country, from your family, and from your father's house, to a land that I will show you. I will make you a great nation. I will bless you, and make your name great. And you shall be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and I will curse him who curses you. And in you all the families of the earth shall be blessed. So Abram departed as the Lord had spoken to him, and Lot went with him. And Abram was 75 years old when he departed from Haran. Then Abram took Sarai his wife and Lot his brother's son, and all their possessions that they had gathered, and the people whom they had acquired in Haran, and they departed to go to the land of Canaan. So they came to the land of Canaan. Abram passed through the land to the place of Shechem, as far as the terebinth tree of Moreh. And the Canaanites were then in the land. Then the Lord appeared to Abram and said, To your descendants I will give this land. And there he built an altar to the Lord, who had appeared to him. And he moved from there to the mountain east of Bethel, and he pitched his tent with Bethel on the west and Ai on the east. There he built an altar to the Lord and called on the name of the Lord. So Abram journeyed, going on still toward the south. Genesis 12 verses 1 to 9 NKJV. Let's look at the blessing of Abram, because all kings are ultimately Abraham's descendants, so everyone will receive the blessing of Abraham, but they must leave the father's house as Abraham did. We won't understand what it means to leave father's house until at the edge of doomsday. Let's first look at the New Testament verse, the parable of the 99 sheep. Here we take the parable of the 99 sheep to illustrate this point. Both Matthew and Luke mention this story in the 4 Gospels. What do you think? If a man has 100 sheep, and one of them goes astray, does he not leave the 99 and go to the mountains to seek the one that is straying? And if he should find it, assuredly, I say to you, he rejoices more over that sheep than over the 99 that did not go astray. Even so it is not the will of your Father who is in heaven that one of these little ones should perish. Matthew 18 verses 12 to 14 NKJV. What man of you, having 100 sheep, if he loses one of them, does not leave the 99 in the wilderness, and go after the one which is lost until he finds it? And when he has found it, he lays it on his shoulders, rejoicing. And when he comes home, he calls together his friends and neighbors, saying to them, Rejoice with me, for I have found my sheep which was lost. I say to you that likewise there will be more joy in heaven over one sinner who repents than over 99 just persons who need no repentance. Luke 15 verses 4 to 7 NKJV. Both of these focus on retrieving the lost sheep, and those who are lost are worse than those who are not lost. But if you compare it in the Gospel of Thomas, you know that the original words of Jesus should not be the description of the Gospels of Matthew and Luke. Because these 2 descriptions tell us that we are happy to find the lost one and bring it back into the group of 99, but the Gospel of Thomas tells us that the lost is the greatest. 107, Jesus said, The kingdom of heaven is like a shepherd with 100 sheep. When the largest one goes astray, he leaves 99 other sheep to look for that one, until he finds it. After the hard work, he said to the sheep, I love you more than the 99 sheep. In fact, God's heart is completely in the lost sheep who walked out of the group of 99. Only this one who looks lost is the biggest sheep who truly believes in God, because God only carries this one on his shoulders and carry it directly back to heaven, not carry it back to the 99 lost sheep who don't know they are acutely completely lost. This example shows us that with just a little change, the whole story changes. That's what we have to watch out for. In the last generation, every king will need to walk out of his own religion and leave alone. All religions have been stepping stones, not the destination. They are all prepared for the doomsday across the Red Sea. Therefore, people must leave before they can finally enter the Doomsday Ark. Moreover, Adam's family will be a single pair to come to the Doomsday Ark, just like the unclean animals came to Noah's Ark in pair. God described Adam's family as unclean, so if the two families walk out of their religious group together and come to the ark, it will not be the ones chosen by God. Clean animals, 7 pairs by 7 pairs, entered the Noah's Ark. From this, it can be seen that the true Israelites will come to Doomsday Ark in groups. The Israelites finally entered the ark on the eve of the Great Tribulation, while the Adams entered pair by pair for a long period of time before that. However, the Israelis will only have an 18-minute window. If they miss it, they will lose the opportunity forever. How many minutes will Adam's family have? So, get yourself ready. Leaving the Father's house also means that all people must leave Adam's sin. What Abraham wanted to leave was his father's house of Adam, and all the little horns, Jacob's, and heels of Adam's house must betray their own body, the house of Adam. The scriptures do not mention that Abram went to the land of Canaan when he was 50 to 70 years old, because Abram returned to his father's house. God did not count his effort. But since he was 75 years old, he never returned to his father's house again. Even his own son Isaac did not return. Isaac couldn't go back to Abram's father's house, and he couldn't even go to seek his wife, because Abram knew from his experience between 50 to 70. This is not God's perverted and harsh requirements for Abram, but because in the Ark of Doomsday, anyone who returns to the world will never be able to return to the Doomsday Ark again, so all his effort over the last 6,000 years will be wasted. Therefore, the Holy Spirit clearly revealed to Enoch that even if we refuse to those who followed Paul's teaching, many team members will eventually return to Paul's teaching and become Esau, who holds an iron rod and sweeps the world. They will be excluded from the Doomsday Ark and never see the new millennium. So, God must have the most demanding requirements for every follower of God. Tiny error will make the whole team fail, and ultimately the whole task from God will fall short. Think about it. Why did God hide the Gospel of Thomas in the Dead Sea Scrolls and reveal to us now? In dealing with Satan's distorted and defiled scriptures, how can we clarify it? This brings us to challenging questions. Are the 4 Gospels more likely to be defiled, or the most inconspicuous Gospel of Thomas? Is it more important to record more than 100 sentences of Jesus' words? Or is it more important to record miracles like water turned into wine? Which would be more useful to make fake Jesus God? Was it the miracle of turning water into wine, or those hundreds of sentences? Is it closer to truth by recording only the original words of Jesus in 100 sentences in one lifetime, or by recording everything after 30 to 50 years and at the end of lifespan? Okay, let's stop there. Everyone should think about the above questions.
下回书第6部分，我们讲法老的由来。加上亚伯兰第一次逃荒到埃及，智者诡计纠战朝，法老代霸埃及。荒年避难期成妹，撒来美历险遭祸。谢谢大家收听以诺谈天节目，希望大家顺着次序听，我们下回见。
In the 6th part of the story, we will talk about the origin of Pharaoh, plus Abram's first escape to Egypt. The wise man's scheming turtle dove occupy the nest of magpie. The pharaohs dominate Egypt from generation to generation. In the famine years, his wife pretended to be his sister, and beauty of Sarai almost landed her a disaster. Thank you for listening to the Enoch Talk Show. I hope you will listen to it in order, and see you next time.